All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to another Cybersecurity Pocket Edition workshop hosted by the Q Project. My name's Solomon, and today I'm going to be doing a quick talk about what cloud computing is and give you an understanding of why people are using it nowadays and a little bit about some of the security risks involved with putting your stuff on the cloud. So to start, what is the cloud for those that don't know? The cloud, in terms of like the internet, is just accessing services on the internet. So these are things like storage, computing power, databases, networking, applications. All these things can be put on the cloud now, hosted by different companies, and you can access it without having a physical device or a physical computer or something, which helps a lot with overhead. And so that's one of the main reasons why people like to go to the cloud. One's the money. It's also a lot of convenience and many other factors, but mainly for someone like a small business, rather than paying for maintenance costs on a computer server and database and having people manage it all the time, you could get away with having less overhead just by going to the cloud and moving your database to the cloud, one of these different cloud providers. You'll still be paying them money, but in most cases, these businesses find that the cost of paying a provider to host their data on the cloud or whatever is going to be cheaper than them having their own dedicated server in their office building or whatever. So that's one main reason. Another reason people enjoy using the cloud is people in like the technology field or any other field accessing technology, such as us in the Q project and cyber and all that. We can use the cloud to upload our applications to and all that, so that people can use software and applications that we build without necessarily downloading them on their computer. You can access them straight through the internet. So if we look at the models of the cloud computing, there's three main ones and an extra one that's getting a little more popular today. The first three are infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. And so, starting with the first one, infrastructure as a service are things as if like a company wants to rent servers and storage and use that to build its application. And so, an analogy for this, or I'm going to use an analogy of renting land and renting houses for all these models. For infrastructure, the analogy would be if you're buying a plot of land or renting a plot of land, you're renting the land from an owner, but the owner is just giving you access to the land and you still need to provide a building, a house, all that type of stuff. And that's what a company's doing when it's just buying a server and storage. It's just buying the building blocks for what it needs to build. Then we can move up to platform as a service. This is if a company wants to pay for everything that it needs to build the application. So on top of servers and storage, there's a lot of other things that are involved in building these applications, or any application that this company would want to build, such as like a database management system for the storage. You need to manage the storage you have. So a lot of times these companies will put, say, the operating system and database, pay a cloud service provider to use that as well as the server and storage. So that way, everything for building the application is on the internet, such as the OS you're using, the tools you're using to manage the server and the services and all that. Then the third one is software as a service, and this is kind of the whole encompassing thing. This would be if you're just putting the application on the cloud. And so with platform as a service, this is would be you're buying or you're renting land and you're buying all the materials to build a house. Software as a service would be you're just renting the house. So if you've ever rented a house, you'll see that you don't really have to worry about much of the upfront or like the costs of maintaining the house. You're just renting the house to use it. And so a lot of companies see that valuable, that you can just use a cloud provider to host your entire application and just pay them to host it. And whenever people want to access that application, they can just go through the internet and access it. And the last one that is getting popular in recent times is the function as a service. This is called like a serverless computing service because it doesn't rely on one single server. In all these other three, if you're going to use them, you're going to pay for a dedicated chunk of server. So you're going to choose how much computing power you want. Say that be like a 4-core, 8 GB setup. And then that cloud provider will give you that allotment of computing power to use. Function as a service goes on the idea that most people are doing computing and all that such, but they're not doing it 24 hours a day. So you can save money by not having it constantly running. So this function as a service behaves as if like you are renting a house and the landlord told you, if you only use the kitchen, the downstairs bathroom, and the downstairs bedroom, you're going to pay half the cost because you're not going to use the upstairs. And that would be kind of how function as a service works. If you're using a server only 12 hours a day, you'll pay only for 12 hours of use on the server. And you can upscale how much computing power you need, how little, and the cost will vary. And so to give an illustration of how these four fit together, we can see this picture here. Software as a service encompasses everything underneath it. So it encompasses the program as a service, the infrastructure as a service, and these are all different things. So it's like IaaS, or the infrastructure is just like data servers. This is operating systems, database management, applications at the high end, like I was mentioning before. And so if you're looking to get into cloud computing, or if in the future, say you're making a business and you would like to use a cloud provider to host your applications or whatever, these are the three top kind of like forefront runners in cloud service providing. It's Amazon's, Microsoft's, and Google's. You've probably heard of all three of these. I think Amazon's web service is probably the most common. And then you also have like Alibaba and IBM. These ones are ones that are growing because many big companies see benefit of creating a cloud service now, or providing a cloud service. So a lot of different companies are creating their own, but these top three are the ones to focus on for now because they know what they're doing and they're reliable. And as for the cyber security part of these workshops, I'll quickly go over some of the security vulnerabilities of working on the cloud. Three different ones. The first one would be insecure APIs. So if all your data and your computing and all that is on the cloud, you need to access it somehow. So all these service providers provide APIs that you can interface with so that you can, say, manipulate data, change data, pull data, do things on your operating system if you're paying for that. And these can be compromised. And especially with data, it can be a little risky if you have sensitive data, say on Amazon's web service, and someone was able to compromise one of the API endpoints, and now they can access people's data that they shouldn't be accessing. So you have to be aware that because your information's on the cloud, there's possibility that a third party can attack it without specifically attacking you. If you had your own server in your office, you'd have to worry about this as well, but you would have a little more knowledge of what's going on with that server. A second vulnerability is stolen credentials. This can range from a bunch of different things. One of the basic things would be if you just have an insecure password. it would be dangerous because if someone was able to brute force your account, or if there's a data breach and your account credentials were stolen, then your cloud services can be compromised. People can pretend to be you, access your data, access the services and applications you're providing. But one of the last ones, or the last one that is one that's getting more important, is how data is handled. People want to know where their data is at, how it's being handled, whether it's secure, all that such. When you're using a cloud service provider, you don't have the hands-on look of what data or where your data is at. If you have your own business with your own server, you know exactly where your data is at. You know when you've deleted it, and you know that it's truly gone. In terms of a cloud service provider, a lot of these companies, they get paid for making, or they get paid to advertise and do all this other stuff. So it's usually in their best interest to hold as much data as they can so that they can kind of identify different customers and try and advertise to them. So when you're using a cloud service provider, you don't actually know whether your data is being deleted or not if you tell them to delete it. Say you have a database and you tell them, I would like all this data to be deleted. They can delete it on the outside, but they could also have redundancy servers or something of that nature that still holds the data, and you would never know. And if it's sensitive data, you kind of want to know where it's being held at. And so with that, this is just kind of a brief overview of what cloud computing is. So thank you for showing. And if there's any questions or comments, I'll answer them now. So I'll wait a few seconds to see if there's any questions. And if not, then we'll end today's workshop. All right, well, I don't see any questions. So thank you for showing up. This was another Cybersecurity Pocket Edition workshop. We'll be back again next week with another one. So thank you. Have a good night.